Happy 2024. I'm so glad you are here today on a Tuesday. A lot of you guys are still off of work, so you're actually able to catch the show live, which I'm so excited about. And today I have a very special guest for you guys. But before I introduce the guest, if you have never watched Get to Know Them, I wanted to introduce myself to you. My name is Monica Graves, and I broadcast my show live every Tuesday on Facebook from my jewelry studio in Burlington, Ontario. And I started this talk show right after the pandemic hit. I thought this would be a great way to introduce you to some of the cool people I've met along my path in hopes that their stories will inspire you. So that's why we call the show Get to Know Them. And along with the show, we have some really awesome local sponsors. So I'd like to start off by telling you about them. We have a brand new sponsor for 2024, and that is Flourish and Bask. They are located in Oakville, Ontario. Their website is flourishandbask.ca, and they are a company with wonderful alcohol-free options for your drinking pleasure. A lot of you are doing dry January. A lot of you have, like me, given up alcohol altogether. And Flourish and Bask has a really nice, if you go on their website, a really nice Riesling that will pair well with your cheese and crackers. And yeah, you'll love their products. So make sure to check them out, and also use the coupon code Get to Know Them if you're shopping online or even going into the store. And Chantal, the owner, will give you 10% off your order. Our second sponsor is also a newer sponsor, Scooters Roller Palace in Mississauga. And as you guys know, I'm a big roller skater, and I am there pretty much every Thursday. So come on out for a skate. Join me and try something new for the new year. It is a lot of fun. Our third sponsor, of course, is Brenda Badome, who you guys know very well. BrendaBadome.ca is the website. She makes amazing clothing for women. Also, use the coupon code Get to Know Them when you shop on her site for 20% off of your order. And last but not least, I do sponsor my own show, Glam Jewels, GLAMJULZ.com. Check out my website. My Boxing Week sale is still going for one last day today, so make sure you grab some goodies. And also, in 2023, we had such a great year. So many women worked with us to do fundraisers to raise money for causes they believed in. They raised thousands of dollars. So if you're interested in working with us on a fundraiser to raise money for a cause you believe in, please reach out. I would love to work with you. Okay, are you guys ready? We have a Canadian iconic rock star on the show today. We have Gordon Deppe from the Spoons. Oh my gosh, so excited to have him on the show. And before I bring him on screen, I'm going to read you his bio. Many of you know him very well. As a singer, songwriter, and guitar player for the Canadian new wave band The Spoons, Gord Deppe has been in the music business for over 30 years. Born in Vancouver, British Columbia, his family moved back and forth between Canada and Germany several times before finally settling in Burlington, Ontario. There in 1980, fresh out of high school, Gord and his band would go on to make the Spoons a different kind of household word. The young band would also catch the wave of a brand new video-driven phenomenon that was about to hit TV screens nationwide. The video for their hit Nova Heart would be aired on the very first broadcast of Much Music. Romantic Traffic, shot in the subways of Toronto, remains as one of the most iconic Canadian videos of all time. In 2014, Gord released his best-selling autobiography, SpoonFed, telling the story of his life, the Spoons, and how the two intertwine. The Spoons continue to record and perform to this day. Gord has also been a songwriting teacher with Song Studio, giving motivational presentations to public school children with Kids for Kids, and has been on the Music Council for Live Lab at McMaster University. Currently touring with both the Spoons and Flock of Seagulls, Gord is an icon in the Canadian wave music scene. I mean, who did not grow up loving the Spoons? Here he is. Gordon Deppe. Yay! We need like confetti to come down or something.
Really.
Yeah.
But you know what? That it you're reading the Bible, which is beautiful. Boy, I was going,
Yeah.
wow, who's this guy? Because it's now it's over 40 years actually. I missed that, and I should refresh our
Oh,
bios.
that's
It's
true.
over 40 years now, which is
Oh
crazy.
my gosh. I loved what you said. I saw something recently where you were excited about 2024 sounds like 1984, and you're right. That is not
It's got a better
30
ring to it, doesn't
years
it?
ago. It
Yeah,
does.
because it's you were talking about wine before. Actually, that sounds pretty
Yeah.
cool having the
The-
non-alcoholic wines there. Anyways,
yeah.
is like wines, right? They say supposedly that the odd years are better than the I mean the even years are better than the odd years. Maybe in music too.
Yeah.
I think the even years were kind of more spectacular.
I love it. That's good. That's a great way to start the year.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. We'll see.
Beautiful.
Still kind of fresh, but we'll see.
Yeah. So, Gord, we all want to know what little Gord wanted to be when he grew up. That's the first question. The
Wow.
jumping off points.
Well, it sure wasn't a musician. I didn't think that was in the cards for a long time. I think, I think the very first thing I thought about was an architect. I don't know why. I like drawing and I like, making plans for things. And it's kind of funny. I never obviously became an architect, but the very first line of our first big song, Nova Heart, is "Architects of the World." It's like, no wonder.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it at the
What?
time, but and it wasn't until I
Yeah.
think my dad brought home a little acoustic guitar when I was like 10 years old. And that was my first
Oh,
introduction to music. And even then I thought, what is this? Like, what am I going to do with this? And
yeah.
singing wise, I never in a million years thought that I'd be brave enough to do that in front of people. I was like, slowly I'd sing at home, write some songs. I started writing songs when I was like 11. I love writing songs, but never in a
Yeah.
million years did I think that I would ever take it outside the bedroom.
That's fantastic. I was going to ask you on the architect thing actually, because you grew up uh partially in Germany. Did you play with Lego a lot? Like
Oh,
I remember I have a German background as well, and
yeah.
my cousins had like the best Lego
Oh,
sets,
yes.
way beyond anything we could get here.
That was a
Yeah.
huge part of my growing up. Absolutely. I was like a master at it. And you wouldn't just build little,
Yeah.
we built like mechanisms, like working
Yeah.
Ferris wheels and mazes. I would make mazes with a little marble going through them. You get really, you can go really far with that. So yeah, I guess it develops your brain in a certain way.
Yeah.
I should have made a guitar out of Lego and see what happened. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, you should have. I loved there's a little excerpt from your book where you talk about, the kind of the culture shock you had with the back and forth from Germany. And I
Yeah.
had a similar, I remember going into nursery school. My parents were only speaking German to me, and it was like, oh my God, I was the shyest kid around. And you had a similar experience. So
Oh
were you a
yeah. Yeah.
shy
Well, I was
kid,
shy
eh?
anyway, but what set me back even
Yeah.
more is that nobody had told my teachers or the principal of the school that I didn't speak English. I don't know how that got
Okay.
forgotten. And it wasn't until like 3 months into me being into grade, whatever it was, grade two, or that the principal finally called my parents in and said, "There's something strange with your son. He just sits there." And, the teacher would be yelling at me and the kids are laughing. And I just sort of shrug and like,
Mhm.
they thought there was something beyond just not being able to understand what they were saying. So once that was cleared up, it got way better for me in school. But I just lived in
Yeah.
terror going to school every day. You just assume
Wow.
as a kid that they must know I'm from Germany, but
Yeah,
no, they didn't.
they didn't know. And
Yeah.
did your parents, like when you were kind of going through that, did your parents then start speaking more English at home, or were you raised German in the house?
Well, I was born in
Oh,
Vancouver, but I didn't speak much
okay.
just for the first year of my life, and then went back. I did move
Yeah,
to Toronto for a little while in the early
yeah,
'60s. I barely remember, so I must have spoken a little bit then. I just don't remember. But the moment we got
yeah,
back to Canada in '67, I mean, you couldn't help but learn just through cartoons on television and
yeah,
TV. That was a really fast education. So that's like I said, it took about 3 months of acclimating and soaking up the
yeah,
culture. And then I was a Canadian
yeah.
again. You know,
Oh, wow. And are
with the
your
help of
parents
like
actually,
cartoons. Hmm?
yeah, yeah, cartoons are a big help. And are your parents actually from Germany
Yes,
originally? Yeah, they are. Okay.
My mom's
Oh,
from
that's great.
Köln, Cologne, and my dad was from
Oh,
Bielefeld, which is further south, I think. Yeah,
oh my God, my dad, that's where all my relatives are in Cologne.
really. Yeah, it's a great
I
city.
love it.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
isn't it that
a cathedral.
cathedral is like, doesn't
I
it
mean,
feel like it's like dropped from the gods when you come out of the
yeah,
train station and look at it? It's just like,
pretty ominous, and it's so much history there. And
yeah.
I think I wrote about that in the book too, how going there, especially with my grandfather, because he lived there. We would go there, and I'd stay with them with my grandparents for weeks at a
Mhm.
time. Just walking those streets of the sort of medieval world,
Yeah.
it just shapes your imagination in a really different way than growing up, say, in Burlington or something.
Yes,
There's just the
exactly.
history and the little pubs and the side streets with cobblestones. And I remember this really
Oh,
creepy puppet show behind the dome. They had this little puppet show with actual puppets and sets, and it was, oh my god, it was worse than any horror movie that you can imagine. I mean, as a kid, it was so dramatic and left me with nightmares.
yeah. Actually, speaking of, we'll get to the music part, but now that speaking of nightmares with the German thing, did you have that book, Struve Peter? You know, where the kid that gets,
Oh yeah,
did you?
actually,
Yeah, yeah.
my wife found me a copy of it. She was able to order me a new one about 5 years ago, and
Oh,
it's terrible what the kind of things they put the kids through back then. It's
yeah,
pretty I mean, it's about pretty well teaching you to grow up properly, but they do it in a really nasty way. Like if you don't cut your
yeah,
fingernails, they cut your fingers off. That kind of thing. It's like
yeah.
what? Look at that twisted. It was yeah,
Exactly.
it was scare
It's so
tactics.
twisted. Yeah, remember the Daumenlutscher that like I sucked my thumb like when I was a kid, and I remember my parents reading me that, and I was like hiding my thumb at night so that it wouldn't get
Yeah, what was the
chopped off
penalty
in the
for that?
it was to cut the th they cut the
Oh,
thumb off, and they had
oh,
those
great.
huge scissors. I think there were
Wow.
a few cut the fingers and the
Yeah.
thumbs off.
Well, if
I
you
don't
think of
know,
all of those
but
things, like you think of Hansel and Gretel, like that was
yeah,
burning people, and the witch and all. It's not nice stuff. That's so when I came to Canada and there's like
no.
Bugs Bunny and like I said, yeah, this is more like it. And I was a huge fan of anything Disney. I grew up
Oh
on the Disney
yeah,
Hour every Sunday, even in Germany, watching that. So to be on the same
yeah.
continent as all this, then my way of looking at the world kind of lightened up a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
It was just the land of dreams for like a lot of people coming here.
Yeah, wow. So so when you got into music, how old were you when you started to like start playing that guitar that your dad got you?
Like around 11, something like that. Not
Yeah,
seriously, but I started writing right away, which is unusual. But I had
yeah,
all these ideas in my head even before I realized even before I got a guitar, I used to just make up songs in my head and lie in bed and sing, about whatever
yeah.
castles and unicorns or whatever it was, and drive my family nuts at night. So I guess I had that sort of creative bug anyway. But when I got a guitar and I
Hmm.
figured out that I could write songs, I would fill out those little music books like you got in school. Remember they were like these like
Yeah.
about this big, and they had like lines, and you had to write the notes. And I don't know why I did that. I did that,
Oh,
and I stopped doing that really quickly. Yeah, but I loved writing songs that I figured nobody would ever hear. I just did them for myself. But that was
right.
good training. I was kind of learning to get my own sound, my own sort of perspective on the world, and it wasn't like
Yeah,
stuff you expect from a kid. Like I remember the very first
yeah.
song because I wrote about it. It was called "The Concrete City." It was real stark,
Oh,
think like yeah, like the man against the machine kind of thing. That was pretty crazy for an 11-year-old, right? Rather than singing about
exactly.
puppy dogs and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's all those books you were reading back in Germany. You
maybe,
became an
yeah,
adult quickly. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So, do you still have those books, Gord? Did you keep all the
I,
those
I think they're somewhere.
songs you wrote? Yeah.
Yeah, I have boxes that never get opened. When you move, and there's some boxes just always stay sealed. So
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes when you open those boxes, you find great things. I remember in the
Hmm.
mid '90s, we put out a CD because of that. It was all the unreleased singles or B sides and things that we recorded never saw the light of day. And I found all those old
Wow.
tapes. I said, Sandy, look at this. Like
Wow.
we all these songs that were
Yeah.
forgotten. And that was an album called Unexpected Guests at Cancel Party. I was that for a title.
Oh,
But
oh, that's a great title.
yeah, so it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, sometimes you have treasures in your basement. So everybody look in your basement. You don't know. Like,
Yes, for sure. That's another New Year's resolution. A lot of people go through
open
those
those boxes in
boxes.
your basement.
Yeah. So at what point did you start to feel like music was more than just sort
Hmm.
of a hobby, or that this was going to be a way of
Yeah,
life for you?
I don't know because I was never like I never thought I could do it because I was so shy in school. I mean,
Mhm.
you could have given me a record deal and put me on a stage, but I would have clammed up like Marsha Brady on the Brady Bunch, when she was on TV. So, like,
Yeah.
so it was like, um, so I would always be in the background. When I got my first band in public school, I was just a guitar player. There was already a good singer who would run the band, and
Mhm.
same into high school. We had bands, and I was always the guitar player, quiet. I might maybe sang a little bit of backgrounds, but I was writing songs. And one day I let the guys hear my songs. And they were like, wow, like, what are these? And for somebody
Yeah.
who was kind of shy, that was a big eye opener. I said, wait a second, maybe there's something. And what
Yeah.
finally led to me having to sing was that the band broke up. The singer went one way, and it was just Sandy and and one of us had to sing. And so, you know what? If I sing my own songs instead of singing cover songs like we had been, I could handle that. I could give that a shot. And that was the beginning. And I realized that people
Great.
really liked those quirky little songs that were pretty different than anything else that, was out there.
Yeah. So, can you remember that time sort of going from the shy guy to like now, like standing on that stage for the first time? I'd love to know how that felt
Yeah.
at the time.
I'm still pretty shy, really. I still get nervous every
Mhm.
show. But once I'm up there and everything's running smoothly, it's great. And then you don't want to leave, right? But as a kid,
Yeah.
it was always traumatic. Like when you're young, all the equipment you have is really kind of cheap stuff, right? And it falls
Yeah.
apart. So every show it was just horrible. It was a nightmare every show. Like the cable would break, an amp would break, a string would pop, and it's just because you're just sort of you're not professional, right? So you're kind of
Yeah.
walking a tightrope every time you play. So it was not a good experience for me. It was not like you see in the movies where you get on stage, you got the mic, and all of a sudden the world opens up. No, it was a very slow thing as you get confident and as you get proper equipment
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. Yeah, it was very slow, and I can say I've never lost that little bit of shy kid inside me. And I've seen that in other
Yeah. That's
people. I've
beautiful.
met other people who people think are full of confidence, but when you talk to them, they're pretty humble, self-doubting people. It's like,
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
No, I think that's a good thing as well. And the name of the band, how did that come about? Was
Yeah, nothing
Yeah.
spectacular. I really kind of forgot, but Sandy had mentioned that we were having lunch or something at our old keyboard player's house, and we are having soup, and somebody
Hmm.
threw a spoon across the table, and but it was the time of bands using objects as names, like the Cars, Martha and the
Yeah.
Muffins. There was a band in Toronto called the Dishes for a while. And so, it's like an
Hmm.
everyday kind of object, like the Beatles. You try to make it into something else. You know, you
Yeah.
and after a while, you say spoons. You don't think of the spoons. You think of, oh, there's a band from Burlington. And
Yes.
there were
Yes.
times when I thought, maybe we should have picked something a bit more cool, like the Tragically Hip or the you know more like OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark or something. But then when you
Yeah.
think about it over time, it's hard to forget a name like the Spoons. It's immediate. Sometimes I've seen bands like an opening band at a concert. I really love those guys, but I can't remember their name. They're just too clever sometimes, right?
Yeah,
So that worked
that's
for me.
right. That save that for the lyrics, make the band name
Yeah, yeah,
something that sticks, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm curious to know with your German parents, because I know what my German parents were like. What did they say when their son came home and said, "That's it, I'm going to be a rock star"?
Oh, geez, no,
What?
not impressed. Not impressed. Well, they kind of saw, even before I said anything, they could see that I was really getting absorbed in my guitar, but they always kind of hinted, well, it's just a hobby, of course. That's not a
Yeah.
real career, which is true, really. I would tell my kids the same thing, but and I did end up going to university, and which wasn't a waste of time. I took psychology and English, so that helps with lyrics and things. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they were not. That was not the life they expected for their kid, especially in pop music or rock music. And my father was probably the hardest to convince. And I remember got a record deal, they kind of took it seriously a little bit. But I remember we came back from our first Casby Awards, which is like the Junos, and we won a couple of little trophy things, and one of them was Band of the Year, I think it was. And I got home later. I was still living at home back then. We were just kids, right? We were still in our teens, and at the front door of the house was a note pinned, like how proud he was of me and all this stuff. I was like, wow. So now he sees, and he saw that this was real, and so that was great. But our parents were there. They were sitting there at the award shows at the Royal York Hotel at another tape on me. I didn't realize that they'd accepted it. I guess they did that night. So.
Oh, that's so great.
And I think they were there with Rob Pruse's parents too. Our parents were friends. Yeah, we were all grew up together.
That's so nice. And I know Sandy had mentioned that her dad was a big supporter of you guys too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he helped with. He used to run the Robinson's department stores. There was one in Burlington and then Hamilton downtown.
Yeah.
We would do like record signings of those things, and it was great. Might as well have been like Sam the Record Man downtown Toronto. They were big deals, People lined up down the mall, and
so wonderful. Yeah, I love that. That's so great. So I wanted to ask you also about the music industry, Gord, because for people who are kind of getting into the music scene, everybody knows, like, especially in Canada, it seems like it's really difficult for bands to make a living, get out there, get known. I just wondered, in your experience, like, what were some of the challenges that you had through the years, and maybe even still have today? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they're different. By the way, I just noticed the dog has snuck into the. If you see a dog walk by, it's our big Great Dane, Luca.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes she'll come up to the camera and sniff the camera. Hey, look, she's back by the fireplace. You see her head there?
Oh yeah. That's sweet.
She, it wasn't easy, and I wonder if it's harder now. People say, well, we have social media, we have the internet, but in the old days, you would go to a record company. You have a big brown envelope with your cassette tape and a photo and a bio, and you put it on the desk, and they may get a dozen a day or 20 a day or maybe even 50, who knows. But now it's all electronic, so they're getting thousands a day. So even though there's the doors, there are more doors, there's too many people going through those doors all the time. So to stand out from everything else is really difficult. It's kind of a fine line too, because I always tell people, try to be as different as you can to stand out. At least back then, like, you had to be unique, and there was nobody else who sounded like Robert Smith from The Cure. There's nobody else who sounded like Morrissey or Boy George. Now they all kind of sort of medium, kind of sound the same. So now it's almost more accepted to sort of be in that range of acceptable voice, that everybody sounds like. Nobody goes outside of that very much. I'm not saying that they're good singers, but they don't venture off weird places like Susie from the Susie and the Banshees, or all these different, the guy from Bauhaus, or just is all in a certain plateau, and that makes it harder when everything has to be sort of homogenous and flat. Into my ears, anyways. There's so much great stuff out there we don't hear, so I'm sure there's experimental and cool stuff there, but we just don't get to hear it like we did back in the.
It's true.
YFM and those great stations.
Yeah. And honestly, you were one of those voices. Like, I still remember when you guys came out, and I was like, is this guy British? Is he European? Like, what's going on? And even the style, like, everything that you did, you really stretched outside of what other people were doing.
And that wasn't intentional. And we weren't trying to be different. Just I didn't consider myself a regular singer, so I just did what I knew. I was a little lower than most of the pop songs, and that's what I'm probably really glad about. That I may not be one of the best singers in the world, but people know my voice when they hear it. Right? They kind of that's work. It's there he is.
You're a damn good singer. Yeah.
That's really, to me, the most important thing, to have your own voice that stands out. People make that criticism of some really big bands. They have you heard the guy from the Chili Peppers live? Well, I don't care. I'd rather hear somebody with a real unique voice sing a little bit off a little bit once in a while than have some pure perfect voice, off the voice, the voice, or where doesn't do it for me.
Oh, for sure. Like even when you like hear a guy like Brian Ferry, like Roxy
Oh
Music,
yeah,
that sound is like so amazing, and he's all
exactly.
over the map with
Yeah,
his,
yeah,
intonations and
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
it's great. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah.
yeah. I would love for you, Gord, to share with us your Nile Rogers story. Like
Uh,
that's super exciting as
oh, the one
well
about
that
how we
you
first met.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and
it
even
keeps getting better.
recently, yeah,
Yeah, it
I
keeps
saw
expanding. Sorry.
yes, I saw on your Facebook page that you were really excited because you were reunited on stage with Nile Rogers.
Yeah,
Like
that
I
was about
guess
five
it's a
years
little
ago.
while ago,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
But
since then,
very really
there was a blog that John Taylor, or is it Taylor? Who is the bass player for Duran Duran? I keep getting them mixed up.
yeah, John Taylor.
But he
Yeah,
does a
John
blog, a
Taylor.
music thing, and now it was on there, and I posted it on our site too. And he talks about how he met us on that, because he says it
Oh,
led to him working with Duran Duran and working
oh,
with In Excess. I don't remember how the connection was there, but Niall says it was because of us. So I don't know, because until he did
fantastic.
the Let's Dance record and then Spoons right after with Bowie,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
he pretty well just stayed in the sort of R&B and soul and funk and disco world, right? So that was sort of his
Hmm.
break into mainstream pop, and that really opened him up, made him a superstar. And because of that time he spent at the power station in New York and up here, he said that I sort of led him to work with NXS, and then that led to he even talked to Bono about that. I and I don't want to
Oh,
blow my own horn here, but I remember
no,
being
I love
doing this little
this. This
gig.
is good.
I was doing this little gig at the CNE with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I was a kind of had to sit back a little bit. It wasn't a very prestigious thing. And I was kind of down, and I get this text from Nile Rogers in the middle of the day saying, "Hey Gord, I was just talking to Bono about you." And he remembers you guys. He said, yes, you were responsible for us meeting back in blah, blah, blah at this thing. And says, what are you talking about? But I'll take it. Yeah. And
Great.
Bono has mentioned this in some things as Sting, whenever they say, what bands you like from Canada. And I think either
Yeah.
they were being polite or they, like, again, they heard something which was different. What is this weird little
Yes.
quirky band? And that's kind of leads back to the story of Niall first saw us. We were playing New York City with Culture Club, and Niall was there
Mhm.
to see them and possibly produce their record. So after we did our set, there's a knock on the door, and there's Nile Rodgers and Sting. We came together, saying how much they liked us, and they've been sitting. I didn't find this out till later. Who also was sitting with them was who's the singer from Traffic?
Oh
Uh,
God.
another famous guy. Anyway, and they
Okay.
were all there. There's a bunch of them, and they liked us. They didn't know who we were, and we're kind of weird. We weren't your average, but that they really liked, not want to work with us, and that was quite something. And you come to see Culture
Yeah.
Club, who was already established by then, and
Right.
they come back to see the opening band. So a bunch of kids from Burlington, and we were kind of like we were kids back then, so we didn't even
Yeah.
really phase us. Oh, that's nice, thank you. We're like, oh, Winfield, that's his name, Winfield. The
Oh
other guy.
yeah. Paul, is it Paul Win? No.
No, why can't
Oh
I
my
remember these?
God.
That's
I can't.
memory's a horrible thing.
Yeah, it's terrible. I
Oh,
remember when I was so sharp with all these. Yeah. God,
yeah.
that's incredible. So you guys were kids, and it's kind of cool that you were like, yeah, okay, whatever. Maybe you know, that's a
And it
nice
wasn't, yeah,
thing
it
to
wasn't
have.
being arrogant. We just didn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
staying here, and not Rogers. I didn't even know much about him at the time.
Yeah.
But years later, like especially when I wrote the book, I said, "Oh my God, that happened! Like that's somebody
Yeah.
should have slapped us back then." Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
great.
so
And are you,
when he came to Toronto,
yeah.
he obviously worked with Duran Duran. So when he came to Toronto 5 years ago, played the amphitheater. I was on stage with them the first time we saw each other in many years, like 30 years on end. Remember, it's a great thing if you see the video. He turns around, he goes, "Hey!" We had a
Oh,
little moment there, and then he told this story that I just told you from
mhm.
that show with Culture Club backstage. Like everybody was there, his entourage, and I was very
Yeah.
proud.
Wow. That's, oh, I love that. How
Yeah,
did you handle that as a young man? Like, once you started to really get to know these uh, other musicians. Well, I
yeah,
was going to say musicians you looked up to, but not, I guess not really because they're in your same genre. Like
yeah,
it's all happening
yeah.
together, right? It's not like you're meeting Paul McCartney,
Oh no, it still meant something
right?
for sure. But
Yeah, yeah.
like when we played with the Police the first time, I was really there to see Talking Heads. So I wanted to meet David Byrne. I met him. So there were some
Yeah.
people that still meant a lot, you know. It's like, but yeah, we were at the same time we were part of the thing. You know, now that when I play with Flock of Seagulls, we do these big shows all through the States and Europe where there could be anywhere from like, you know, 8 to 15 other bands like playing on the same festival or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not
Yeah.
only, you know, with the Flock of Seagulls, but I'm also like a fanboy running around. Oh, there's, you know, there's so and so, and we talk about everyday things like guitars, or the singer from, you know, Blank Chum say, "Oh, you like that sound? Well, how do you get that?" You know, it's like we talk like we're at work.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of cool. And a lot
Yeah.
of those people have become friends now because I think they all kind of think the same way. You know, you always think,
Yeah.
oh, they're superstars. They look down at the rest, and they're all sort of like looking at each other and going, you know, sussing each other out. It's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
and also like back to your original point about like people really doing things that were different back then. You know, it's like you guys were all pioneers, you know, you carved out a path for
Mhm.
all these other bands that have
I hope so.
followed. So,
Yeah,
oh
because
yeah.
we weren't you know necessarily smart about it. Because when I look back now, I said I wish we'd written songs that were more mainstream or poppy that would be on, like, you know, commercials now. You know, that why didn't I write a
Yeah.
song like that? You know, like some of these other bands have that just gets so much mileage on commercials or TV shows or whatever. We're just
Mhm.
sometimes being too clever for our own good. You know, I kind of regret that part. But at the same time, that's the
Uh,
price you pay for creating something which is
mhm.
kind of unique, I think. So,
Yes. Okay. So a positive note to that, I just want to, as a Gen X kid now. So you know when you go into the Fortinos and they're playing like some 80s song that you thought was so obscure, but now it's not because you're shopping and you're
yeah,
buying
yeah.
your groceries and it's not. I have never heard a Spoons song while grocery shopping. So when I hear you, I'm like, I'm still cool.
Yeah.
They don't play this at the grocery store.
That's funny.
This
I
is
think I
new
think I've heard
wave
it
that
at
not everybody
IKEA.
understands.
Yeah, I think I've heard a Spoon song at an IKEA though. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's still cool, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah. Oh, wow. So the Flock of Seagulls, how did you know them, Gord, like from the past? Or
just
how did
barely.
that come to be? How did
Well, that
you?
first show we did with the Police and Talking Heads on the same bill was the Police Picnic in '82 at the C&E
Okay.
Grandstand, and
Yeah.
Flock of Seagulls and the Spoons with the two young bands on the bill. And I remember seeing them just being blown away. I think I remember them the most for that whole day. So what is this? You know, especially the
Yeah.
guitar player, that echoey
Yeah.
goodness that he was doing. It was kind of like what I was trying to do, but even better. You know, I just like, wow, I want to do this. You know, not knowing
Yeah.
that, you know, 40 years later I would be doing it. I think we met briefly. I've got a photo somewhere, just really funny. Mike's got the big hair and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we met again like 37 years later up here. It was a charity show. Mike came by himself. He said, whatever the other band is, he didn't clue in yet that it was the Spoons who played with them, you know, almost
Yeah.
40 years before. You know, if they could just join me, I'm going to come up with the keyboard and just back me up for like some of my hits. Like, we quickly learned them. And he said hello, you know, didn't really make a connection or anything. And that was it. We went home. And then like a year later, I get a text on my phone. My wife and I are sitting in a little cafe somewhere and having a pizza and a glass of wine. This text, you want to join the band? What? Who's this? He doesn't say much. You know, Mike is just to the point, right? And I said, oh, hi, it's Mike, you know, Flock of Seagulls. And I said, sure. You know, if I could, as long as I could make the Spoons and the Flock work, you know,
Yeah.
the two schedules work, and all worked out fine. And now I've been with them almost 7 years. Yeah.
God, that's wild. How have you found touring with two bands?
There she is, Luca.
Oh,
Oh, it's
there she
good.
is.
I mean, most of the work is with
Yeah.
the Flock. Like if you're talking about how difficult it is in Canada, it really is hard
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
steady work in Canada. And that's why you see people like Gowan, you know, working with Styx.
Mhm.
And my friend
Yeah.
Phil X, guitar player for Bon Jovi, you know, to really to do something or keep busy is you got to go outside the country. It's a shame. You know, the
Hmm.
amount of work is insane. We can play just the greater LA area. That doesn't even include San Diego or, you know, north like San Francisco and stuff, more than we can of all of Canada in 1 year. Or just
Wow.
Texas. There are more shows
My
to
God.
play in just Texas than there are in all of Canada. So
Yeah.
it's just that, but it goes for everybody. Mike said the same thing. They're much more popular in America, and they couldn't keep as busy in England, so they moved here.
Mhm.
They moved to the States, and with
Yeah.
the you know, much music and of course MTV, they became superstars. We're back in their home country. They kind of like whatever. It was not a big. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So it's
How
great.
did you guys find it? Like at the height of the Spoons, were you, well, I know there's more people in the States, but how was it popularity wise for you guys? Where were you most
It was fine. None
popular?
of the songs did as well as they did here because to the
Mm-hmm.
Americans, Nova Heart was still very weird. It was very to them. They were still listening to their their ears weren't opened up to music like we were. And I think that has a lot to do with CFMY FM, the radio station. We
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of British
Yeah.
stuff, and that's what I grew. I thought that was the mainstream, but they were still listening to the Eagles and that kind of thing. But Springsteen,
Yeah.
like all that kind of thing. So we did well on the East Coast, West Coast, but the middle of America was like one big wasteland for us. But it wasn't
Yeah.
until we were on Rush's label near the end of our careers, and we did the Bridges Over Borders record, which is
Okay.
meant to sort of work in America, and it did. It sold better than America than it did here. So you can do it if you put an effort into it.
Yeah.
But our fans back at home were kind of going, "Oh, I don't know." Well, you
Yeah.
guys kind of went a different way. No, now the songs work well within the live show, but it was a big
Yeah.
change for us. And yeah,
Wow.
but I mean, it wasn't. I'm saying that it was hard, but back in the '80s, it wasn't. We worked like crazy. Like for 10 years,
Mhm.
we pretty well toured for a year. Then took a year off to write new songs, do videos, blah blah blah, and then you go touring. It was steady work.
Yeah.
But these
That's
days, it's
great.
a lot harder. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Thank goodness for CFNY. I mean, they created such a beautiful, dreamy 80s for all of us who grew up at that time.
Oh,
And I actually had May Potts on last year, and she was talking about how, in the old days they could go, they were told just come into the studio. If you have any weird alternative records at home you want to
mm,
bring in,
yeah,
play them, just don't repeat the same song in 24 hours, I guess was the rule back then.
isn't that amazing?
And it's like the people that worked there created the sound of
Yeah.
this radio
I
station.
have heard. I mean, I was friends with a lot of people there, especially Live Old Jive in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
And Live will say many times when they show up in Brampton, "Come on down." So late at night, he let me in the door, and there were a few times he said, "I'll just pick some records and you can spin them for a while." Now, one time he went down to the gym. Nobody ever knows. Just look, he says, "I'll be back in a couple of minutes," and I messed up so badly with the crossfades and stuff. So he had to
Oh.
explain that. He had to write a letter to the saying what happened there. I remember one time
Oh.
he said, "Come on down," and it was late at night, and I was banging, and no, sorry, this is before cell phones, I think. So I called
Yeah.
him, or he knew I was coming, and he came down through the stairs, because it was shared with other businesses, this little building. And we're at the
Yeah.
front door. The door shuts behind him. There's a song on the air about to run out, and we're stuck outside the building. So we're running around like idiots, banging on every window. And like 5 minutes later, we find a cleaning lady with a broom in the stairs. But there was a good 5 minutes of dead air that he got in big trouble for. But that's how loose
Oh.
things were back then. Now
Yeah.
you can't even get past the front desk at a radio station anymore. It's like Fort
No.
Knox. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually,
No,
Boom
it's
is pretty cool. Boom FM they're pretty like the same attitude. We love those people. They've been super supportive as well. And Dave Marshall,
yeah, and
yeah, he from those CFY days. He's got his own station,
yeah.
and he's but the CFY thing going out in Brampton. His station is killer too. Spirit of the
Oh,
Radio.
what is it
Yeah,
called? I
I
don't.
think it's
Oh,
called. Is it Spirit of the Radio again? I think.
okay. I'll have
Oh,
to Google
NY.
him.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
brilliant. Same thing. He's got the same philosophy and it's keeping that alive. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was so huge in our careers as well, and he was a
Yeah.
star in his own right. He came up through the Chum days. He was a personality. He's David Marsden, and
Yeah.
from our first record onward, he supported us.
Oh, that's wonderful. You guys have such a great reputation. Like anybody who, talking to May Potts and a couple other people, they're like, they're the nicest band. They're like so easy to talk to, great people,
That's
and
good.
I think that's wonderful that you
Yeah,
guys have kept that
yeah,
throughout all the years.
yeah.
It's really cool. Like even
Sounds
just,
good.
I ran into you at Denninger's last week. It's like, I thought I don't know if I should go talk to this guy. I don't want to interrupt his lunch. But you were so like, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Nothing
It's
helps.
nice.
I think it
Yeah.
helps for longevity and stuff, because you never know you're going to meet later on. You know,
Yeah.
as you know, years later, everybody's at the top for a while, but some people have never
Hmm.
lost that attitude about them. I won't name names, but they still think they're at their peak in the '80s. No, it's a different time.
Yeah.
So just be grateful
Yeah.
for what you have, and that's why we do these
That's
festivals
right.
down the states with all these other '80s bands. I think we all have that attitude. Like we're just happy to be alive and playing, and still making
Hmm.
people happy. Like I tell
Yeah.
people, playing Nova Heart is great. People go crazy, but you play Iran in some places, people crying, in the front row, like just the emotional, you know, it's like comfort food for people who've
Yeah.
sort of endured a lot of things, especially coming through, the pandemic, and a
Hmm.
lot of people are convinced that it will never be another time like the '80s. So for them, music has sort of been missing in their lives for a long time. So to let them relive that time in their lives for a couple hours or
Yeah.
minutes is a big deal.
Yeah. It's funny. I find a lot of those lyrics too, like lyrics from you guys, Flock of Seagulls. Actually, Tears for Fears was a big one as well. It's almost like you get really emotional because it's almost as though the songs were written for us at that time, but now that we're all in our 50s and 60s, um, the songs still hold relevance. It's like
No,
you were
that's great.
future writing, like,
Yeah,
and I think that's a lot of times
I'm
what
glad to hear
brings
that.
on the
Yeah,
tears. Yeah.
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 I'm glad. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
it's
good.
really amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool. So what kind of things have you got planned for 2024?
Well, start back up with the
What's
flock. We already have spoon shows into the summer booked, but a lot more flock shows. And usually every year we go to UK for a month,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and then the States, of course. There's a couple of festivals. There's always the Lost '80s festival or tour that
Hmm.
we do. They have a couple of great shows coming up on the February the 8th and 10th. One of them is Casino Niagara. That's Flock of
Okay.
Seagulls, Spoons, and Men
Yeah.
Without Hats. And I think
Wow,
Heaven's
you're going to
Gate
be
as
busy
well.
that night.
Yeah, it's double
Yeah.
duty, but that's already
Yeah.
sold out, over 5,000 seats. I mean, just to show you the power of the '80s. And then we're doing
Yeah.
Windsor Casino, the Caesar's Palace in Windsor, and then out west to do some things with that package. It seems to work well when you put
Great.
a couple of those '80s bands together, and all the summer
Wow.
festivals. But busy. Last year was the busiest year of my life playing music. How is
Wow.
that possible at my age? So many years after the
Amazing.
'80s. Yeah, between
So
Spoons, Flock, Seagulls. Yeah.
what does your sweet mummy say about that now, all these years
Oh, she
later?
loves it. She's my biggest fan for sure. Not back then.
Yeah,
They
of
were very,
course.
they were very on the fence about what their little boy was doing with his life.
Yeah.
But they came around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. And is your wife able to come with you sometimes? Like
Oh, absolutely.
when you
Yeah.
go, yeah,
She would
that's
love to
so
come all the
nice
time.
too.
She's a big supporter, and it's always fun when she's
Yeah.
there. And that she
Yeah.
when she can't, she does for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. Oh, I'm so happy for you, and I'm really excited. I want to read your book. Like it sounds really wonderful,
Well, if you
and
have a German background,
yeah,
you'll
yeah,
relate to a lot of that
yeah.
growing. That's how it starts. It
That,
starts in Burlington at our high school at our first spoon show, which was a bit of a disaster, which got us
yeah.
banned from playing any other high school in Ontario because of something that happened. Now, that's how it kicks off. And
Oh,
our principal
okay.
was out. He was in. Oh my God! He contacted the whole school board and said, "Damn, we got these people here," and it didn't have nothing to do with us. It was just an incident at the show. But
Yeah,
and then it goes back to Germany and sort of growing up, and explains, you know, why I
yeah,
am the way I am, and maybe why I write songs the way I do, and yeah, and then
yeah,
it takes us right back to Burlington, like why we ended up in Burlington, and
yeah.
where we all met, and the funny little threads, even like between Rob Prusas and my family, that goes way
Hmm.
back, like decades before the Spoons ever got together back to Europe. A lot of strange things that those are the
So,
things that I find a great, like writing the book. I discovered them, but then reading, like, wow, there's actually like something that makes sense here. Right? It's not just random
mhm.
things. And so this
Yeah,
you make sense of your life. That's why I say to people, you should write your story down, whether it's a book or just a journal or whatever, because
yeah,
years later, at the time when you're writing or you're experiencing it, it doesn't really phase you. But when you look at it 34 years later, go, oh my God, this is like beautiful poetry, the way it goes. And sometimes a horror, it's a horror movie. Sometimes it's,
Yeah.
but there's a flow, there's a thread that, that sometimes can really amaze you. That so do it.
Wow.
Yeah. Plus, it's good
Yeah,
therapy.
that's so beautiful. I love that because I think that's one of the big lessons we learn, like as we come into adulthood. Well, especially over 50, it's like you kind of go from being um, in your life to an observer of your life. And like you said, you see all these connections, you see how things come full circle. You finally understand what it means when people say, one day you'll understand that you are supposed to be exactly where you are right
Yeah.
now. And
Right.
yeah, and we create this for ourselves, which is really beautiful. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
write your book.
So good.
Nobody else has to
Okay.
read it, but write it down. It's
All right.
and sometimes
I
people have a
will.
much more interesting story than they think. Like average people, it's like
Hmm.
people don't realize sometimes what that they have or they've experienced. I mean, and how it can affect other people. So,
Yes, that's true. And you know that too, Gord, like starting this podcast, I wanted to do it so badly because number one, the art of conversation, I feel is something that's sort of being lost now
yeah.
with, technology and everything. And everyone has a fascinating story, and growing up in the 80s too, we didn't have access to those stories like kids do now, like
No.
Madonna, Annie Lennox, like Boy George. They were all like enigmas. Like you didn't really know anything about them, you just knew they were cool,
Yeah.
you liked their hair and you liked their music. Like if you wanted to get any information, you just listen intently to the song lyrics and
Yeah.
hope that maybe you could get to know them through their lyrics, but sometimes those lyrics had nothing to do with them anyway. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my
Definitely. Yeah.
namuti, my namuti just chimed in. She said, "Yes, Moni, write your book." She keeps
Yeah.
telling me to write a book.
That's, yeah.
Yeah,
Those German moms and dads and grandmas, they're all very.
yeah,
They have their opinion, right?
yeah. They want you to
Yeah.
keep working, keep
They'll give you
going.
that little
Yeah,
push that you need, right? But you're
yeah,
so right. It's
exactly.
level the playing field. Like back then, to find out
Hmm.
something, but you kind of vaguely knew about Boy George's persona. But unless he wrote a book or there was a tabloid thing, it was just
Yeah.
left up to your imagination. But now you can know too much within seconds. It's just
Yes,
it kind of takes the magic out of everything. Really, it's like
it does.
it's too
That's
accessible. Yeah,
I agree. We lived in a magical time in the 80s, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
look what's
I think,
happening now with artificial intelligence. Not just
oh,
as musicians, but as writers, as creators of anything, visual things to filmmakers. I think we're done. I think this might be the
mhm,
last years of real or decade or of real live, you know,
mhm.
creators or of performances. And I remember somebody approaching us a couple of years ago and saying, "We have this company. It's going to go, want to get in at the ground floor. We're recording
Yeah.
bands and creating a hologram show." Like they've done it with
Oh,
ABBA, right? And ABBA, and
yeah.
in the past with dead performers like Elvis and people like that. And I kind of laughed because I thought, well, maybe we're still alive, we're still touring.
Yeah.
Why do you want to put us, But just think about it. You don't even have to work. We'll have 200 of your shows all across North America playing every week, and you can get this much residual from each. And I'm thinking, first of all, I don't like this. The human factor is taken out of it. Plus, who wants to see a hologram? Some people do, obviously, but how many people want to see that much of one performer? You hear your favorite song a million times on the radio, you're going to hate it. So it's better if the Spoons only come through town once a year than they're available
Yeah.
every week at your local theater kind of thing. So I don't
Yes.
understand it, and I don't think it took off. The company took off, but I mean, holograms are being slowly integrated and accepted, and yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know what's going to happen. With what we read and what we watch on TV and what music we hear, and so who knows what's
Mhm.
what's actually created by people.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of this stuff, like well, like you just said, it takes away from the human connection, but it also, social media, all these, there's so many distractions from taking you away from your art and your
Mhm.
creativity. Like those things can be creative as well, but
Yeah.
imagine you spent your whole day on Instagram instead of writing
Yeah.
music.
But
Like,
you know what the truth of it is, and I want to say that it's a sad truth, but maybe it's not. It's just evolution. Is that the new people, like the new generation, the kids, to them that'll be normal, and it won't be bad. They'll be, well, that's the way it is. Like, I know what to compare it to. Like, artists don't line their backs anymore painting the Sistine Chapel. And we probably think, well, that's crazy. Like,
yeah.
now it's, you create things on the computer. So it'll just be some, antiquated thing of, oh, some live guys going on stage. Like, that's so funny, like,
Yeah,
but it'll happen,
that's true.
really. So we should see as
Yeah.
much live music as possible. That's the message while we can.
Yes, I
And
think so. And especially the Spoons and Flock of Seagulls.
and I have to say,
Yeah.
people are gonna hate me for this. When people, we played in Vegas a couple of times this year, Flock of Seagulls. We drove by that big Sphere, the new venue.
Yes.
And we were supposed to go there for a tour, but U2 was rehearsing that night, so we couldn't get in for the opening. They're doing a big thing there. I've seen footage from that, and it scares me because, again, the whole experience of seeing a live band is going to change. It's gone to more of a, almost like an AI experience. The band is like this small in the picture, and the rest is just visual experience surrounding you and absorbing you, which is beautiful.
Wow.
Like, like scenery and visuals, but the band is being made smaller and smaller in the equation. I want to see stacks of amplifiers and guitars and wires and cables.
Yeah.
I don't want to see
Yes.
perfect, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but people are loving it. So I can't say anything. People are loving it, and that's what makes them happy. But as somebody who grew up doing the sort of the down and dirty performance of what it takes, it's a letdown for me.
Yeah, I think so too. It's all contributing to overstimulation, whereas our generation, well, now I feel like it's like sound like I'm preaching something, but we were like totally zoned in on the band, the cables, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
do you think, Gord, like when you look at the cost of tickets. I was actually talking to my brother about this yesterday, but like you look at the cost of concert tickets today,
Yeah.
and it's astronomical. I mean, to go to a concert, like to go and see U2 now, you got to remortgage your house to do that, right? But do you think that because we're streaming music and, music is available for free, is this a way that musicians have to make money by charging these higher ticket prices? Or
Well, I mean, I
like,
guess.
what's that all? And then you got Live Nation. Like Live Nation has now bought the key to Bala,
Oh,
like we're not going to get to go to the cottage and see a band for $20 anymore.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's the artists who already established and have millions in the bank who are charging these prices. Supposedly, it's going other places like the Live Nations and the promoters and the scalpers, but still, like look at Robert Smith from The Cure. He put his foot down and said, "No, tickets $20 for everybody," or whatever it was. I could understand it was some up and coming band that needs to scrounge up any penny they can get, but these guys are established and living a good life. Unless Springsteen is in debt and I don't know it, I don't understand. And I think it's awful. I wouldn't spend the money. It's like nowadays people say, "Well, I can't afford to buy these steaks anymore because of the rising cost of food." Well, I don't have to have a steak. I don't need it. I can live without it. I feel the same about music. So if my favorite band, or if somebody I kind of wanted to go see is now, $500 instead of $100, whatever, I don't need to see that. And that's a low ticket price, $500. But again, the new generations thinks it's normal. They think it's they're thinking, "Oh, that's the price," But it's funny, right? To say at the same time they want the music for free on the internet. So there's a justice in that, I guess. If they could, sort of take the music for free for their listening at home, then I guess they pay for it in the live experience. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not paying that money for anybody.
No, me neither. And I went to see Roxy Music and I sat in the nosebleeds for $100. It was good. I still got the Brian Ferry vibe, but yeah, so great. Oh, I'm so happy you were able to come on. This is an awesome way to start the new year, and I'm really excited for you. And and all
watch for
your
us. Like I said,
plans.
we'll be playing shows around the area, like those in February. If you're coming anyway to the Niagara show and then the Windsor show, and we should do some festivals around the Burlington area every summer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right.
Yeah, Sound of Music and all that good stuff. Yeah, That's great. Well, thank you so much, Gord. I'm going to put
Thank you.
you in the virtual back room. I'll be right back with you. I'm just going to say goodbye to
All
everybody
right.
and thank you so much
Okay.
for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. What a great guy. And happy New Year. Happy 2024. Make sure you get out to see the Spoons and Flock of Seagulls this year. And maybe a bunch of us can go. It'll be so much fun. Check out our show sponsors. Flourishandbasque.ca. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them and get 10% off of alcohol-free options. Check out brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Them for 20% off of your order for beautiful clothes. Please meet me at Scooters on Thursday nights for roller skating. And of course, I also sponsor the show glamjewels.com. Hop on for one last day of our Boxing Week sale. Thank you so much for everything. Keep on showing the world your sparkle, and we will see you back here next week with another amazing guest. Bye for now.